If you're building a dedicated home theater that's a projection-based system, one of the choices that you're going to have to make is what type of screen aspect ratio do you want? Do you want to go with the standard 16:9 screen, or do you want to consider something wider than that, perhaps all the way out to like a 235 or 240:1 aspect ratio? And this comes up a lot in the consulting sessions that I've been doing as I've been helping people puzzle through kind of some of the choices in their home theaters. It's an element that we've talked about a lot. And in my own space, several years ago when I built my theater for the first time, I ended up opting for a 16:9 screen for a few reasons. I talked about that in specifically the 16:9 preference video. However, in my more recent rebuild, I did opt for a much wider scoped aspect ratio screen that I was able to achieve for a few different reasons. Spoiler alert, I much prefer the scope. But let's talk about why you may have a preference for choosing a wider than 16:9 aspect ratio screen for your home theater. And I'll start off right away with what I would consider probably one of the most important aspects, and that's your content preferences. To me, being able to get a bigger, wider, more immersive image, I would call it the more immersive option for cinematic content, is a huge reason, I think, to choose a wider or a scope screen. So if you're using your space primarily for movies or for what I would call premium television shows, not every single one of them, but I think by and large you're going to find the majority of that type of content is often presented in a wider than 16:9 aspect ratio. And again, that goes for movies, or look at like the high production quality television shows that we see from like HBO on Disney Plus and Netflix and other streaming services. In many cases, they're wider than 16:9. So why would you not want to try to pop that image up, eliminate the black bars on the top and bottom of your screen and some of kind of the squished down presentation that you're stuck with, especially if you have to opt for a smaller 16:9 screen. I've noted it on the channel before. That's the type of content that we focus on and that we use the most in our theater. So it was a perfect match to go wider and be able to accommodate that when we did the rebuild and I changed everything over. I think another reason that you may have a preference toward a wider or a scope screen is if you actually are going architectural and you're able to put your speakers behind the screen. And I would absolutely recommend this, if at all possible, particularly for home theater. Having the speakers behind the screen just locks in and links the presentation of the audio in the video for a home theater application. But the consideration is if you have a 16:9 screen, particularly if you have to stick to a smaller scale 16:9 screen, and you put all three of those speakers behind there, you may be kind of constraining some of their separation a bit, meaning your left and your right might be kind of tightly coupled or too close to your center speaker, and you're not really getting kind of that audio envelopment by being able to spread those speakers out. And if you don't have the width, you don't have the width in the room. So some folks may opt to put their left and their rights outside the footprint of the 16:9 screen and just have the center speaker behind. To me, that kind of like breaks down some of the value of going acoustically transparent to begin with just for one speaker. So I think really home theater and the concept of architectural speakers, acoustically transparent screens, and scope aspect ratios, man, these three things just basically go together perfectly to get all those speakers behind the screen, spread them out for a nice front LCR spread, maximize the cinematic impact of your projected image, and it's a perfect combination of home theater presentation to me. Now, something else to consider when it comes to making a choice of a scoped aspect ratio screen is I would certainly have a preference to it as long as you have a solution for dealing with shifting aspect ratios. So when you choose to go wider, you deal with integration logistics that are different from going 16:9. In a 16:9 screen, you set up your projector, zoom, focus, and shift probably one time, and it stays fixed in that way every time you use it, regardless of the content. But if you have a scope screen, you probably find yourself wanting to zoom the image up for the wider presentation of the content and perhaps needing to zoom the image down when you're watching native 16:9 content. That's what I do right now. So if you're going to go that route, you're going to have to make sure to choose a projector that has lens memories and gives you the ability to quickly and easily change that stuff, as well as hopefully a easily accessible manual way to trigger those lens memory changes. I have a Control 4 system, and I use the hard buttons on my Control 4 Halo remote to be able to quickly recall certain lens memories of my projector. Of course, you can go for a Lumagen or a MadVR and completely solve this problem in a much better way, but keep in mind that's a more expensive option in your system, generally, dealer offered and needing to be dealer integrated and all of that. I will probably have a video processor in my theater before too long because of all of the benefits and things that it provides. But back to the original concept here is you need a solution for managing some of the integration complexities that come with choosing a wider than 16:9 screen. And if you have a solution for that in mind and you're able to spend the extra money on a video processor and all that, boom, you're golden. Man, go for that scope screen, enjoy it, and you're fully and completely good to go. So I'll kind of mention the last one as maybe a little bit more of an honorable mention, but sometimes we have to choose the aspect ratio of our screens based on the constraints of our room. Some of us have kind of tighter rooms left to right, some of us have shorter ceilings, and one of the things that you'll find with the 16:9 screen is as you go larger, you have to accommodate that height. And if you're not going acoustically transparent, you may have subwoofers or a sensor channel speaker below it. You may be actually limited in the height of your room. In that case, you can choose perhaps the highest height screen that you're able to accommodate, but then go ahead and make it scope because you have the extra width and such to deal with. When I chose 16:9 originally, I did it largely because I had tower speakers and the light path of the projector determined the maximum width of a screen that I could support. Based on that width, I did not want a scope screen because my 16:9 image would have been too small. So I chose 16:9, I went as high as I could, but again, now that I have architectural speakers and an acoustically transparent screen, I was able to recover that light path essentially, and I had the width in my room to keep the same 16:9 vertical size essentially that I had originally chosen and make it wider, make it the equivalent scoped aspect ratio from there. And I think it's worked fantastic. So again, sometimes in our rooms we just deal with challenges, we deal with constraints, we deal with things that we can't change because of the structure of our homes and the logistics of where we're putting our theater spaces. And so you kind of have to roll with what you're able to work with there. But I think it's particularly important, again, to note that if you are height constrained, you can get a more cinematic image and probably get a little more out of your home theater by choosing to take that height but still go wider for a scope presentation. I really don't think there's other major considerations here. I don't think there's really much of a difference in terms of cost. All of the great screen makers make options nowadays that are 16:9 or other aspect ratios as well. So there's plenty of options on the market to fit what you need, and in a lot of cases as well, you can even get custom sizes and such from certain screen makers. So I'm curious what folks in the audience think that have a home theater. What screen aspect ratio did you choose, and what led you to specifically choosing that? Topical to this video, do you have a scope screen? Why did you opt for a scope screen? Do you like it? Sound off and share your story so that other folks that are earlier in their journey or speccing out rooms or trying to put designs together can benefit from all of that collective experience. Check out the other video as well where I talked about a couple of points such that you may have a preference for actually choosing a 16:9 screen for your space. The one thing that I recommend is make this decision one time, because the screen is the type of thing that should be able to be bought once and stay in our home theaters for a long, long time to come. And I can say from experience, having bought 2 screens in a matter of a few years, a large 16:9 and then now a large scope screen, the resale value on the original 16:9 when I sold it was fairly disappointing. So I took a pretty significant discount off of the original MSRP for sure, and even what I paid for it in order to sell that. It's a very specific piece of equipment and not very easy to ship as well, so you're going to need a local buyer. So at the end of the day, try to make this decision very effectively exactly one time. Get that screen in there and enjoy it, because the other elements of our system, of course, are going to turn over with technology changes and all of that, but we can use our screens for quite a while in our systems. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, there's affiliate programs, super thanks, and all of that below. If you're shopping screens, Audio Advice sells them. There's affiliate links for them. Otherwise, please like, share, subscribe. Leave your comments, all of that. Thanks so much for watching, and come on back for more home theater discussion and fun.